They thought you were weak because you didn't react. They talked over you, ignored you, tried to get under your skin, and you stayed silent, not because you were scared, but because you were watching. You've been in those rooms. The loud ones dominate the air. The insecure ones try to prove something, and there you are, calm, quiet, still. You don't shout to win. You think, you observe, you wait. Nietzsche believed in a form of power that doesn't need noise, a form of dominance that speaks loudest when it says nothing at all. See, when most people argue, they reveal their ego. When they shout, they give away control. But the person who holds their silence, that person holds the room. Imagine this. You're sitting at a table. Accusations fly like knives, but you don't flinch. You sip your coffee, eyes steady. The silence between your words builds pressure. Their voices get louder. Their mask begins to slip. This isn't a weakness. It's restraint. It's psychological pressure. And Nietzsche knew that silence, used wisely, becomes a mirror, and people will destroy themselves trying to control what they see reflected in it. In a world where noise is mistaken for strength, silence has become the most dangerous weapon. This video isn't about winning arguments. It's about outsmarting without being noticed. It's about power without aggression. And it's about a forgotten strategy Nietzsche understood long before anyone else. Stay silent, not to hide, but to dominate without a sound. Most people are taught that silence is empty, that saying nothing means you have nothing to say, that if you want to win, you must speak, argue, defend. But silence does something far more unsettling. It creates pressure, the kind of pressure people aren't trained to handle. Nietzsche understood that when you hold your silence, you force others into a psychological corner, one they didn't expect, and often can't escape. Here's what happens. The moment you stay silent, especially when someone is trying to provoke or challenge you, they begin filling the space with assumptions, with emotion, with noise, and the more they speak, the more they reveal. Their anger, their insecurity, their overcompensation. You're not controlling them with force. You're controlling them with absence, with restraint. It's the same reason people can't stand awkward silence, because it turns the mirror back on them. It forces them to confront their own words, their own energy, their own flaws. This is why Nietzsche believed silence was never neutral. It wasn't just the lack of a voice. It was the presence of discipline, awareness, and patience. And those things unnerve people. You might be thinking, that sounds manipulative. But here's the truth. This isn't about deception. It's about discipline. You're not twisting the truth. You're giving others the space to show theirs. The one who speaks first in a battle of minds often gives away their position, but the one who waits, who observes, holds the advantage. Silence isn't the absence of power. It's the moment before impact, like an archer holding the string, like a wolf crouching before the leap. It's a calculated delay, not a retreat. So next time someone tries to drag you into a fight, an argument, a moment of emotional chaos, remember, silence isn't giving up. It's giving them the rope, and most of the time, they hang themselves with it. You're surrounded by noise, people trying to talk over each other, prove themselves, push their ideas into every corner of the room. But there's always that one person, calm, quiet, unmoved, who changes everything by doing almost nothing. Why? Because silence creates tension. It sharpens the air. It forces people to fill the void, often with their own insecurities. And Nietzsche understood this. The true dominance isn't always won through aggression. Sometimes it's achieved through stillness. You might be thinking, that doesn't work in the real world. People walk all over you if you don't respond. And at first glance, you're right. Silence can be mistaken for passivity, but that's the trap. When used strategically, when paired with observation, awareness, and timing, silence becomes control. it becomes a mirror. And the longer you hold it, the more others begin to show you who they really are. So no, silence isn't weakness. It's the choice not to react out of emotion. It's the strength to watch when others try to provoke. It's the ability to hold steady while chaos builds around you. Nietzsche didn't believe in being quiet to disappear. He believed in silence as a form of psychological dominance, a silent weight that bends the room around you. And once you learn how to hold that weight, you don't just outsmart people, you undo them. Nietzsche didn't fear brute strength. He didn't glorify loud voices or outward dominance. What truly unsettled him were the quiet ones, the people who didn't rush to react, the ones who held their gaze longer than was comfortable, the ones who spoke last, or not at all. To Nietzsche, silence wasn't the absence of power. It was power, refined, distilled, lethal. Because silence does something that words never can. It creates space for others to collapse into themselves. You've probably felt it before. That pressure in the room when someone stays silent after being challenged. You expect them to fight back, to defend, to explain. But they don't. They just watch. And in that moment, something shifts. You start second-guessing yourself. Your words start to stumble. You fill the silence with more noise, hoping to regain control, but it slips further away. Nietzsche believed this was the point. He saw the battlefield not as something physical, but psychological. And silence, in his view, wasn't passive. It was a tactic, a way to expose those who rely too heavily on noise, ego, and emotional reaction. You might be thinking, but wasn't Nietzsche extreme? Yes. He was intense, even ruthless in his writing. But hidden in that intensity was clarity, a rare kind of truth most people ignore. That silence can make people unravel. That stillness can feel like dominance. That restraint can be the loudest statement in the room. Nietzsche believed that people betray themselves not when they're silent, but when they're speaking too much. They reveal their fears, their insecurities, their need for approval. But the one who waits, who listens, who lets others overshare, that person becomes dangerous, not because they threaten, but because they don't need to. This is what Nietzsche feared and admired, the one who could watch chaos and remain untouched. So if you've ever been called too quiet, too reserved, too distant, understand this. You're not weak. You're just playing a different game. And it's the one Nietzsche said would always win, in the end. And most people think silence is easy, but it's not. It's easy to speak, easy to react, easy to defend your pride the second it feels attacked. What's hard is restraint. What's hard is stillness. And that's why most people will never master it, because silence demands what the ego fears most: invisibility. Let's be honest. People want to be seen, heard, understood. So when someone challenges them, their instinct is to prove, explain, defend. But Nietzsche believed this instinct is exactly what weakens them. Because the moment you react to prove your worth, you've already handed over your control. You might be thinking, but staying silent feels like letting them win. That's the trap. That's why this power works. Because so few are willing to sit in that tension. It's uncomfortable to be misunderstood. It's uncomfortable to be called wrong and say nothing. But power isn't about comfort. It's about control. And most people would rather feel right than stay in control. This is why silent strength is rare. Because it asks you to let go of the applause, to walk away from the argument, to let people talk, and let their words echo into silence. And here's what Nietzsche knew. The rarest power is the one that doesn't need recognition. If you can stay silent when others are trying to provoke you, if you can hold your posture while they raise their voice, if you can watch, observe, and wait, even when your pride is screaming to strike back, then you've already outsmarted them. Because the person who needs to be seen will always chase attention, but the one who can stay invisible, who can choose silence, will always control the outcome. That's why Nietzsche called this dangerous. Not because it harms others, but because it reveals who's in control without ever needing to say a word. By now, you understand this. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. But that leads to an even deeper question. How do you use this power without becoming distant, bitter, or manipulative? How do you stay silent and still stay you? Because silence isn't just a weapon, it's a choice. And the way you use it defines the kind of person you become. You might worry that if you stop reacting, you'll seem cold. That if you say less, you'll disconnect. That if you withhold emotion, you'll lose yourself. But here's the truth Nietzsche would want you to hear. This isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming unshakable. It's about emotional discipline, not emotional numbness. You don't stay silent to punish others. You stay silent to protect your peace. You don't withhold your thoughts to confuse or control. You do it to wait, to think, to move from awareness, not impulse. This form of power isn't built on domination. It's built on inner stillness. Because when the storm hits, and it will, the loud panic, the weak shout. But the calm watches and decides what happens next. That's the real shift. Knowing when to act and when not acting is the loudest statement of all. So if you're afraid this will make you distant, it won't. If anything, it will make your presence sharper, your words heavier, your energy stronger. People will start to notice something different about you. You won't talk as much. But when you do, they'll listen. You won't defend yourself. But somehow, you'll never look defensive. You'll stop proving yourself and start positioning yourself. Because when you master silence, you're not hiding. You're preparing. You're watching. You're becoming the one Nietzsche feared, and the one the world silently respects. Nietzsche didn't write for the crowd. He wrote for the quiet ones, the thinkers, the ones who sit in the back of the room, watching, listening, calculating. The ones who never speak unless the silence becomes too loud to ignore. But Nietzsche also left a warning. A truth hidden beneath his philosophy, one that most people overlook. Silence is powerful, yes. But like any form of power, it can turn inward. It can isolate, harden. Silence can become a shield you never put down, even when no one's attacking. Nietzsche understood this, that the same silence that gives you control can also become a cage. If you use it to run from vulnerability, it will cut you off from connection. If you use it to manipulate, it will eventually backfire. If you stay quiet not from strength but from fear, you lose yourself. So here's the truth. Silence is only powerful if you know when to use it and when to break it. Not every battle is worth fighting, but not every silence is worth keeping. The final move, the one Nietzsche hinted at but never said aloud, is this. You don't master silence by staying quiet. You master it by choosing why you're quiet. So the next time someone underestimates your stillness, the next time your silence is mistaken for weakness, the next time someone pushes you, hoping you'll break, let them. Because you're not there to impress them. You're not there to out-talk them. You're not even there to win. You're there to watch, to wait, to act with purpose, not pride. And when the time is right, you won't need to raise your voice. Because the most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't have to prove it. That's what Nietzsche feared. That's what the world respects. And that is your final power move.